Okay, hi everyone. I'm just going to let everybody come into the room because I can see numbers going up. So I'm just going to let them go up for a little while. Lots of people coming in. Hi everyone. I can see lots of lovely, well-known circle supporters joining. I keep letting it go up. Welcome everyone. I'm going to give it another sort of 30 seconds to keep going up. Everyone attends. Brilliant. Welcome everyone. I can see there's people already from around the world on this. So nice to see. Okay, I'm going to give it another 10, 15 seconds and then we can start. Hello people, look, there's already wonderful conversation in the chat box. Do say hello. Okay, everyone, we're going to start. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Raki Shah, I'm the CEO of The Circle, and we are hosting this event today. And it's a delight that you are all joining, as I said, from around the world. Today's a really, really important day. Today is World Refugee Day. Yesterday was also the UN International Day of Elimination for Sexual Violence and Conflict. And today we're here as a part of The Circle's Global Feminist Series. And this is an emergency briefing on Sudan and the crisis going on there, which is one of the world's worst humanitarian crises. So thank you so much for everyone taking the time to join us and for all the panelists as well. I know many of you who joined were expecting to see the wonderful Christina Lamb as host. She sent her profuse apologies. She has had a really unwell family member that she's had to attend to. But we have got the most wonderful person in Gemma Cairney, who's joining us to host. Gemma has been a supporter of The Circle for a long, long time. She's also a multi-award winning broadcaster, author, production company founder, activist. It says here life enthusiast, which I love. And I think you've also got a book coming out, which is The Immortal Sisterhood, which you will have to come back and kind of showcase your book at that time. And Gemma has been on the BBC. She's won awards for her documentaries and so much more. So Gemma, thank you so much for joining. I'm going to hand over to you in a minute. But just to say, as a circle, we host these events to connect global feminists together, which is so important in our work. Solidarity and action goes throughout everything we do. So we want to shine a spotlight where we can, where women and girls in particular are facing atrocities around the world. So today you're going to hear from three incredible feminists from around the world. I am going to be here, but I'm going to hand over to Gemma to take the reins. And thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much, Raki. I can say that it's been a true privilege to know Raki for a long time and to watch The Circle evolve, expand, develop, and always have a really inspiring core. I think I've very much become an activist and even a woman in the world, very much with The Circle kind of holding me. So I really appreciate all of the work that you do, and I really appreciate everybody that is here and wants to talk about a really emergent and serious issue. Like Raki said, I did come in last minute, and I am here very much as a curious mind and a journalist, somebody who hopefully will ask the right provocation and questions, something that I do find hard, complicated, and always feel compelled to speak to people on the ground and people from a country in conflict and crisis. So it really does feel kind of amazing to have the opportunity to ask these three women and our guests today some of the questions that hopefully we will be able to discuss. And also, I think everybody, it's so powerful that we're here in a kind of metaphysical circle in our own right on solstice here in the UK, and it is World Refugee Day. There's so much going on, and we are here trying to take time and make space in a quite humiliative way to learn together. So it's my sort of great honor really to introduce our panelists. Hello, where you at? Technology.
Hello, Gemma.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us, Mahaseen Dahab. Please tell us a little bit about what you do and where you are and why you're part of today's discussion.
Thank you so much, Gemma. Thank you for the circle, for having this event to keep eyes on Sudan. I'm Mahaseen Dahab. I'm a feminist activist and a grassroots mobilizer from Sudan. I've spent the last 8 years of myself trying to bridge the gap between theory and my activism through movement building and working among different bodies and supporting Sudan's transitional government via the unit of combating violence against women and children. Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
That's quite a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You're still here.
Just a little.
Still actually smiling. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Reem, are you around? Reem
Yes,
Abbas.
I am.
Hello.
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very proud of Mahaseen. She's one of the co-founder of many, grassroots feminist associations and groups in Sudan, and was an icon at the feminist march that we did about 3 years ago. I still remember that day, actually. It was very, very, it was just amazing just to have so many women march for, equality, for freedom, and challenge all the policemen that were on the street. So I'm Reem. I'm a mother. I am a feminist activist from Sudan. I did journalism for many years. I'm a writer. I've been, I published a book last year on the cultural movement in Sudan. For the last year, since, the war broke out, I've been trying to survive with my family, I have to say, and also trying to just continue to keep eyes on Sudan and speak out, especially about the horrendous things that are happening to women. I work for the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom right now, and I am just volunteering as much as I can with different groups, to make sure that women get the support that they need. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Grace. Grace around, Grace Jerome.
Yes, hello. Good evening to us all. Thank you. My name is Grace Jerome. I'm here today because I'm a child, I'm a mother, I'm a woman, and former refugee who was affected by conflicts and grew up in the refugees camp. And today being the World Refugees Day is my joyous day because this reminds me of my childhood. This reminds me of the children in the camps, of the women who are giving birth in the bush. And so this day is very important to be together with refugees.
Incredible.
To show them the solidarity that we're with them. They are not alone. Thank you.
Thank you so much. In terms of context, if somebody is joining this discussion, and we are humans that trying to find our humanity in so many ways at the moment. Sudan and what is going on in Sudan is not always something that is in our mainstream press. How could you sum up what the experience is like being there on the front line right now? Like, what is going on and how does that affect your everyday life? I'm going to ask you, Grace. Yeah. You're on mute at the moment, I think.
Yes, I can describe the situation. being so kind of the people being displaced and the people joining South Sudan, coming into South Sudan, and also looking for refuge, looking for safety. But equally, South Sudan is not that safe for them still. So whatever they are looking for, they don't find it within the neighborhood, and this creates more vulnerability in their hearts and all that. So the situation is really crazy, especially at the transit zone, the routes, where so many are coming in every day. Those who reach on foot, those who are brought maybe by caravans, those who come through, so many people. And you can read their eyes, you can see their faces. And this means there is a lot of needs in their eyes, and that you don't need even to ask the question. All you need to do is to give what you can. So this is kind of situation. And of recent, the World Food Program actually said they no longer provide food at the transit zone because they need to do what we call airdropped to the sides because of the condition of the road and the rain and all that. So it's crazy situation that I can just say. That is a summary of it, but I think we'll deal into details later on.
Mahasin, can I ask you what you would say as somebody who is, again, like working actively on the front line and putting a kind of a structure of practicality to how you can help? How important is it that the rest of the world speaks to people on the ground?
It is very important for the world to join the people of Sudan or the Sudanese people, because whatever they are facing is not basically they are making. And this is what I can say, the disaster is man-made. And so there are people concerned who are actually creating these disasters. And so it is important for the international community to join hands and actually talk to the people concerned, because this is not God kind of situation, it is man-made. So there are people behind it. And so if the international community really want to help the people of Sudan, then they have to talk to the parties concerned, okay, so that they can come to terms and put people at the front line, at the front, other than their party issues and what they are fighting about. Yeah.
The context.
Yes, adding to what Grace mentioned, it's really important to speak to people on the ground, and especially women in Sudan on the ground, because we have been dealing with militarization way before this war broke out. The core struggles of the feminist movement since the Sudanese liberation was with systems that marginalized Sudanese women and put them at the bottom of each system, of each processes of everything. So prior to the transition, Sudanese women contributed to the revolution, and that was tokenized, and there was no political participation or recognition or reform that valued that activism and that fight for collective liberation. During the transition, we have been organizing and working on reform that was met with zero to none political will from our politicians and our esteemed government at the time. After the coup, we joined forces again, organized to collectively fight against the coup and work towards another democracy. However, this was met with a lot of violence and a lot of shifting in dynamics on the grassroots level. And I think we can dive into that a little bit later on with Reem, especially because she has been working on different levels directly in terms of politics, policy, and whatnot. I think what we're seeing now on Sudan is a result of a failed political transition and a failed peace processes that eliminated people who were directly affected, not only women, but groups and ethnicities that were directly affected by the grievances of the past regime. And we are back to square zero in the current conflict. This is sad to see, I have never imagined myself speaking on a panel from a perspective of a refugee or a person who is displaced due to conflict, due to, you know, my previous privileges before this war. It is extremely humbling to be here. And I hope to learn while talking, and for this space to be enriching and of support.
For some context, more than 8.8 million people have fled their homes since fighting erupted, and these people have been in need of assistance for too long now. The Sudan 2024 Humanitarian Needs and Response Plan requires $2.7 billion to provide life-saving assistance. As of the 15th of May in 2024, the appeal is only 12% funded. What shocking statistic. Grace, how does that make you feel? Yeah, I mean, let us be the mouthpieces, because that's the one thing that I've got, you know, like how can I spread a word directly from the people of Sudan to try and rally more solidarity and money?
I think to me, the issue of funding, the crisis being underfunded, to me, it looks like the world have lost the humor that the connection that people used to have to support each other, because this is the crisis that needs everyone's attention, and that requires everyone's dollar in to support the situation. And this are, when we say people lack food, the Sudanese that are coming in lack food, and that's real. This is not just making up, but it's a real situation. So the question behind underfunding of this crisis is a question of now making us think, is the world, global world, supporting the conflict? Because if not, then why don't we support the refugees? Why don't we support the people? Why don't we support the war to end and create that discussions with these political parties to end the situation? Because equal, as I said, South Sudan is not in position to provide for Sudanese. And remember, South Sudan itself also is still in the same crisis. Politically, is unstable. South Sudan has is being comprised, cannot even reach the refugees. So this is the question we ask the global community. Why is it that we don't support the Sudanese refugees?
Reem, do you have direct response and thoughts to contribute, but also perhaps like actual ways of us being able to activate right now?
I want to really personalize the experience of loss. I mean, we can look at the statistics where, for example, in Khartoum, my city, it was a city of about 11 million people. And in April 2023, by December, only less than 2 million people were left. So we're talking about 8 million people from Khartoum state alone that had to flee. And this is why I feel that the numbers cannot even begin to accurately describe the crisis in Sudan. But I want to really personalize what loss is, losing your home. It's not just about being displaced. Our homes have been looted, and we're talking about really just generational wealth, homes that have been built over decades by our families and our grandparents, everything that once belonged to you is now gone. Everything we all left, with very little. So everything from the clothing or wardrobe and even the furniture and our mugs have been looted. Everything has been taken away. And in fact, in many houses, many people I know, the militia has brought their family and they have occupied their homes. So basically, we're talking about a situation where you cannot even go back to your home because it doesn't even belong to you anymore. There is another family living there. And it's so everything is gone. And we're talking about people who have not been, we have been, displaced and so on, but also we're talking about the fact that we are being impoverished, you know. Farms and agricultural plants have been destroyed, factories have been burned down. When we're talking about agricultural projects and farms, the machineries have been, you know, basically burned. So even if you do want to go back to farm and to start making a living again, you cannot do that. So, and this is why the crisis in Sudan is so deep, because we're talking about a complete erasure of a people. We have been erased from our cities. It's as if we were never there to begin with. We have been, our history is now being erased with the burning and the looting of museums and cultural centers and universities and research centers and manuscripts, valuable manuscripts that are telling about our past. So our past and our future is being taken away from us. And it's being taken away from us, but it is a man-made crisis. It's a political crisis that has also been kind of, the international community did play a very negative role in escalating this crisis, in making sure that a peace agreement or a political agreement was pushed on the Sudanese people, even though we continue to warn that this will lead to war. And right now, unfortunately, it is becoming a proxy war in the sense that there are countries such as the UAE, for example, that are actively supporting and arming this militia to continue to kill the Sudanese people. You know, and the international community cannot come out and say this in, you know, in straight, and they cannot make policies and decisions to ban this, you know, the weapons that continue to flow into Sudan because, you know, of international relations, of interests that they have in the region, and of the fact that you know, the UAE is becoming kind of a very strong ally to many, you know, Western powers. So it is a proxy war, you know. There, Russia, Ukraine is very much present in Sudan. Everyone is present in Sudan right now, fighting their wars, fighting their battles, trying to rip apart the country and trying to take a piece of it with them.
Thank you. I just want to come in a little bit more to say that, you see, when we talk about loss and damage, it's not just about the property that people lose during war. It goes deeper into the dignity, into the life, into the, it is more deeper than just property that people lost during this conflict. So it's not just about losing those properties, but it's about losing the dignity, losing your childhood memories, losing your ancestors, actually the ancestral, the graves and all these, because they have that connection with the people. They are all lost. So this is just so deep that we can't just talk on top, like talking about it on top, but it goes deeper into the lives of people, because I'm talking from the perspective of these children who are here in the camp, and they just don't look at you and maybe ask you, but they keep asking you questions. This shows the magnitude of this conflict in the life of the children and people actually of Sudan. Thank you.
That is a moment for me to ask you specifically, as a global feminist movement here in the now, with the circle holding us, what are the direct effects on women and children? As I know that some of the statistics are absolutely devastating when it comes to rape and sexual violence being a weapon of war.
If I may come in, Gemma, I feel that what Mahasin said earlier is really the beginning of the answer. I mean, women were the on the front lines, and we were the bloodline of the revolution, you know, the 2019 revolution. But after the revolution, we started seeing a backlash. So I think the sexual violence, the horrendous sexual violence happening to women right now, is very much a direct result or a continuation of the backlash that was happening against women in 2019. Why? Because we were many and we were on the streets. We were in the public spaces that were monopolized by men. We were not supposed to be there in the first place. So all of a sudden, there was a backlash after 2019 to push us back into private spaces, to push us back into the homes. This is why we saw increasing intimidation, harassment, sexual violence during peaceful protests. We saw also things such as honor killing, you know? So there was also a societal stigma and societal pressure to make sure that women are basically intimidated because we were asking for too much freedoms. This is what they said after 2019. So this violence against women has been on the rise, and we've documented it, and we were fighting against it after 2019. So when the war erupted, I expected to see this level of sexual violence. But I think what we're seeing right now is something that it's very just difficult to tell that something to this extent was going to happen. It's sexual violence, it's sexual slavery. Women are being kidnapped and sold into sexual slavery. They are being basically forced into prostitution. Families are being blackmailed, so to basically buy the girls back from the militia. They are being trafficked into other neighboring countries to be, for like forced prostitution. Women are being basically, forced into labor for the militia to cook for them, clean, and do whatever. And so, so many young women and even older women are now disappeared. There is an initiative called Missing, and if you just go to their social media pages and look at the number of posters of like family members pleading, of pictures of like even girls as young as 13 who are missing, and no one knows where they are and what happened to them. And it's and most of them, unfortunately, they don't come back. The few that come back don't really come back, mentally or psychologically. I mean, I do know of a case, for example, and after she was returned to her family, right now she's completely mute. She's unable to speak because I think she just doesn't even know how to describe what happened to her. And many of them, even after going back to their families, they die or they commit suicide, and we've seen so many cases like that. So I think violence against women is deeply rooted in political violence in Sudan. It's deeply rooted in the structure, and it's deeply rooted in a culture of impunity, especially the military generals and the military, institution, that they've gotten away with this for so many years. So it's had been normalized, and we're just supposed to kind of pretend that nothing is happening. But the last thing I want to say is that the impact is going to be really bad, in the sense that right now women are so intimidated and so scared that we're seeing less presence of women in the civil society and in public spaces. I think this impact is going to last for decades.
Thank you so much, Reem. If I may add to what Reem just said, we're also seeing violence that's targeting adolescent girls. So adolescent girls are vulnerable during the times of war. So we're seeing a lot of exploitation in IDP camps, in different shelters that don't prioritize necessarily care and trauma-informed care. And there is this security hold in self-controlled areas where men with weapons basically guard, but guarding isn't really guarding if you sexually exploit those girls. And we're seeing also, adding to that theme, I am extremely fond of the feminist response rooms as a means of which women in conflict zones, specifically in Khartoum, in Greater Khartoum, are organizing collectively to respond to combatants' violence, CRSV, and providing services and care among each other. The feminist response rooms are basically networks of women who share the same neighborhoods, and they help each other with food, with resources, with even borrowing children clothes among each other. And this organizing is formed since the beginning of the war. What we have been witnessing as a means of targeting volunteers on those response rooms, in few areas in Khartoum, those volunteers were targeted with headshot bullets, basically. So it's why are you collecting these names? Why do you visit those neighbors? In interrogation, you simply die. Some of these women have also been continuously asking for support due to the scarce resources and the support that's coming from the international community that specifies women's needs. There is also increased period poverty because the war in Sudan is so hybrid and so, all over social media. A footage of an RSF soldier was circulating with him using period pads or as bandages, and now there is scarce there. Women don't have access to necessary hygiene products. And I can only imagine, and I can only remember my personal experience during the beginning of the war, and how afraid I was to go out of my house to just look for basic needs such as water and electricity. And not to mention, there is a deliberate internet blackout on Sudan. So some states such as the Jazeera state, Khartoum state, North Darfur, West Darfur, South Kordofan, East, and west of Sinnar are deliberately being shut down with RSF technology. So we will not hear what's happening to people in those areas. They are in complete isolation. I can only ask everyone here to imagine being a woman who lost a partner in war with 4 children that are hungry, and you're in complete isolation. You cannot use mobile banking, you cannot use any services, and you have hungry children with you. I don't think we look at things through that lens. However, we see claims from RSF accounts and people who are backing the RSF saying that those women in RSF controlled areas are prostituting themselves for the money. But this is not something that's been deliberately forced upon them. And there is a lot of footage online if you go into those accounts, when you hear the RSF politicians talking about the feminist movement, when we talk about exploitation of women and their needs and sexual slavery. We see so many threads where they're actually taking footage of vulnerable women prostituting themselves for the money and the aid and the support, and denying full responsibility for the situation we're all at the moment. I'll leave it here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Obviously, there's hardly words to respond except for the grief and the pain shared being very powerful for us to activate and organize wherever we are as a global community right here, right now. And I feel ashamed sometimes to be in a country that isn't telling me about this crisis sooner. And I know the important role of women to be in solidarity to actually change the world for the better. And yeah, I'm very, very humbled by the honesty. And it leads me to ask, how do you keep your head up day to day? Where does this palpable resilience and strength, and and you've talked about it historically, women being on the front line as part of the revolution, the clarity and eloquence of all of you, how do you muster that? Because so many of us in society right now are proving that we just don't have that. It's so much easier to look away and to remain, almost sometimes I sort of see it as frozen in a fear. Whereas I don't see that with you. And it's inspiring. And what are the ingredients of this so that we can really connect to it and be part of your mission?
I think I will begin. It's not just about resilience, but it's about the belief that you can see on my face, I have so many scars. So to me, I believe that there is a tunnel at the end of the journey. because having been there myself, I can see from these children in the camp, from these women and from these people, that there is hope at the end of the journey. And so you feel that you want to be part of that hope. You want to be contributing to this hope in this life of these people, that despite all these challenges, you bleeding, you being raped. And by the way, I want to take us back to say, when we say sex being used as a weapon of violence, and we're asking about statistic, I want to remind us today that it's not about statistic. It's about just that one woman who is raped, and that it is a global, it is one woman in Sudan is a global women being raped. So it's not about the statistic, it's about that one person who has undergone as a woman. You imagine yourself in that shoe. So it's not about the statistic. So what keeps, like myself, continue doing what we are doing and visiting the transit zone, receiving them, is that we have that hope that there is better tomorrow. And we want to convey the same message to the community, the global world, that make us see the tomorrow that we are hoping for. Yeah.
Thank you. Hope.
Thank you, Grace. I think for me, it's I think my feminist struggle and my being and organizing, me being on organizing in the feminist movement and choosing the path of, you know, bridging the gap between theory and actual activism is coming from a place of just understanding that I am simply a third-class citizen in my own country. And I am always surprised and amazed by the ability of women that are organizing in even worse conditions. Like I mentioned, the feminist response rooms, those are basically women in neighborhoods under the control of the RSF, under the control of SAF in Greater Khartoum, and they are finding means to find, you know, joy and live life to some extent. There is also those lessons that we see, and it kind of doesn't give us an excuse to not give our all and do our best from our place of privilege to find an end to this war, to advocate for policy reform, to join these spaces for these discussions and make people also look at Sudan. So we're not only statistics that you read about famine, we're not only, you know, stories about conflict-related sexual violence. We are actual people. We have history, and this is a pivotal moment for all of us. So for us to, you know, feel seen is really important for me as a woman and as part of the feminist movement. But it's also to you know, to kind of impact and push for that paradigm to shift a little in our favor for once, maybe.
I would like to ask
I may
people
come in.
watching as part of the
Sorry.
webinar as well to use this opportunity to post questions, responses, as I really feel like we are all in this autonomous space of creating something potentially very powerful, and I'm really, I really like hope. I get really excited by it, so I'm really glad that that's part of a cohesion that we can cultivate ourselves. Yeah, and I feel like, Reem, you want to contribute?
Yes, absolutely. And I really liked your question, Gemma. You know, this year we're celebrating the centenary of what we call in Sudan the White League Revolution. And I don't want to really talk about it a lot, but there was one incident during that revolution. There was a woman, her name was Al-Azza, and she went out and she protested. She took part in the political protest. And we recognize her as the first woman to be arrested for taking part in a political protest in Sudan's contemporary history, and this was 100 years ago. So Al-Azza, it's often a term we use. It's like as a term of endearment for Sudan. So many of us call Sudan Al-Azza after her, just to recognize her powerful role. So I want to show that women in Sudan have a very long struggle history. We have been struggling for a long time. Even before Al-Azza in the 19th century, there were women who were organizing girls to study in learning centers in central Sudan. Women organized in philanthropic associations and to do cultural activities in the 1920s and 1930s until the Sudanese Women's Union was born in 1952. But as most post-colonial countries, the ruling party often monopolized women's spaces by creating a women's wing. So the independent women's organizing was always kind of undermined and intimidated, and sometimes the women groups were really fought against and cracked down upon. But the Sudanese Women's Union continued. My grandmother is a member. My mother is also a proud member, and so I come from this history and this heritage of women who have been struggling for the women of Sudan for a long time, and I'm very proud of that. That I'm just kind of following in their league. But I also want to say something. Hassan said earlier that women in the revolution were really very much central to the revolution. But then after that, we were completely sidelined. And we were told, okay, thank you for taking part. Now you can go back to the kitchen. And we just saw that women's, participation in the transitional government was minimal, and it was not up to our standards. But I also want to say that I think, even though I feel that, the revolution, of course, did not, really succeed in giving women serious political gains or in kind of saving the country from this eventual collapse, but we saw that it did something so magical. It decentralized the women's movement. And right now, this is why we're seeing so many initiatives and groups and little feminist organizations in different parts of Sudan that are working right now, doing a lot of work, from organizing the soup kitchens to doing like psychosocial support to the displaced women, to distributing sanitary and hygiene and dignity kits. They are doing wonderful work, so this decentralization of the women's movement is really why we are so powerful right now. But how can we become, part of this peace process? This is another story.
Mm-hmm. Grace, I'd love to hear more about your organization in particular and how you've been distributing support with women in such an amazing way, and also perhaps help activate us with a language so that we can go and try and raise some more funding for organizations such as yours.
Thank you for that. Initially, it was like a dream that you have, and you're receiving the people, and then you wish to support, but then you don't. But then when the circle came in, we were able to provide the basic needs of these people. This is entirely the children that we receive, the women that we give, and this basic, because what the other supporters do is they bring these people to the camps and then put them there. So give them one of kind of feeling, and then that's it. So root of generation goes deeper into really understanding this person. Remember, we just talked about the deep loss and damage that the conflict is facing. So we're dealing with those basic human need in terms of the psychological part of it, and then the really part of the food, the really part of the housing. This person has to be secure, and we're not just doing that, but we're going beyond that through advocating for better services for the refugees, because you find the government who is hosting these Sudanese refugees is not actually aware that they have such needs. So Root of Generations does advocacy to really assess the situation and tell the data and take the data to the government and say, these are the needs. And because you find in some refugee camps, the people who are actually taking care of the refugees, and these are the same people actually are using them at night. They cut these plastic sheets houses and they enter. And then also these are the same people who are stealing with the little they have. So they don't feel secure at all. And so these are the stories we tell to the government and the Commission of Refugees. and all those agencies that are dealing with the refugees. So we identify the deeper sense of the human being and then advocating for the better services. So come to circle that we went actually at the moment, we're actually going deeper into meeting some basic needs in terms of income generating activities, because these people say, we can do it if we have it. If you give us something, I think we can multiply our little to meet the needs of tomorrow. So this is what we do then, training them on income generating activities, identify the markets where they can easily do the businesses, and then be able to take care of the families. Because it is actually like, this is where they will be. There is no guarantee that these people will go back soon. So this is where they will be. And so they need stable income that they can be able to take care of themselves and the children. And also recent, we're advocating for clinical, there is a hospital unit that we advocated for them to shift to because health issues are very much in need, and where they stay also is very far from the government hospitals. So we're telling the government to take a unit from there to the camps so that they can easily be accessible to the refugees. So this is what we do, and thank to the Global Feminist family. Yeah.
And I think that this is an important moment for so many of us feeling like we want to help actively and be given the map and the infrastructure to be able to do that. And I think speaking to you has reminded me of the importance of grassroots organizations and people helping one another on the ground and actually doing the research to be able to listen to this conversation and to speak to you there, and not to completely always go with everything that we see or don't see in this particular instance on mainstream platforms and channels that sometimes have an agenda. And yeah, thank you to you for all the hard work. As somebody who has experienced it yourself and your life is so affected, you keep that strength and hope to help others. And it's a ripple effect. You know, it's an autonomous situation where you break down that system of hierarchy and you do what needs to be done by working together. And it's really, really powerful to hear your story. And I would like to be able to support you in every way that I can and that we can to get the message out there. But just a moment to say, wow, and big up. Like, seriously, it's really, really motivating for us all to hear that with everything that you've gone through, you still are helping others. And it makes me like want to tell everybody that we all must do the same in this modern world, you know? So people are activating right now. They're wanting to do stuff. And the circle is a really good, cohesive, and a great conduit to be able to think about what it is that we can do to at least spread messages and leverage our privilege, use our voices, not to be rigid in guilt and shame, but to come together in a real equality that is to be in solidarity, particularly with the women and girls on the front line of revolution almost once again in Sudan, and the collective liberation being at the core of this. You know, at the same time as the violence against women and girls being used as such an incredibly destructive weapon of war, it is because of the power of women. Our power is undeniable, and it is something that we cannot even necessarily logicalize. And I think that is something that's terrifying to a patriarchy of destruction. And it will continue. This will continue. This hope, this sense of hope that women can conjure in solidarity, is unbreakable. Abigail would love to know. We're kind of coming towards an end, but Abigail is one of the people watching. If there is a vision for a new Sudan, looking into the future? I mean, you guys seem the right people to ask. What would be this futurist legacy from your perspectives?
If I may go
Sorry.
first. Okay. I think a Sudan future must include truth and justice mechanisms, not reconciliation. We want justice, not only for the current war, but we want justice for CRSV survivors in 2003. We want justice for CRSV survivors in 2019. We want mechanisms that can make us feel heard, seen, and understood. And we want justice delivered in ways that will maintain women's liberation and also achieve lasting peace. That's how I envision a Sudan in the future, where feminists are leading reform and they're no longer afraid to be represented among the ranks of the government, where truth and justice are valued, where there are laws that protect us as women in Sudan, where there is reform that ensures our long-lasting liberation. And I'll give the floor to Reem.
Thank you.
You know, I think I always take the issue back to Sudan's marketplace. Sudan has a militarized marketplace. So it's a marketplace controlled by men with guns. And, you know, just like, you know, Hemeti, who's the leader of the Rapid Support Forces militia, he said about 10 years ago that if you don't fight, you don't have an opinion. So I think unless we challenge, you know, this this militarized political marketplace that gives authority and power to men with guns who basically rule through doing transactions with each other, then women are never going to be part of the equation. We are going to continue to be in the periphery of the state, in the periphery of the economy, in just the periphery, basically, being sidelined even more and more. I think this war is an opportunity for Sudanese women to come together and to really challenge the militarization of the state. If we don't do that, and if Sudan continues to be ruled in the same way through men with guns, I don't see really a future for women's liberation, for women's equal participation, or for women to even be safe, you know, walking down the street or even in private spaces. So I think unless we really understand that this is the major problem and in the country, then and that everything that is happening right now, the war, the political, you know, failure is a result of that. I think it will be very difficult for us to really challenge and change the system that is leading to war and that is leading to violence against women and that is leading to this failure that we're seeing.
And what can we do? Is it helpful for us to be reposting information, doing events to raise money for grassroots organizations and find out who the right people are via organizations like The Circle? What can we do right now in terms of what's the framework for us to follow to not feel so helpless?
Okay.
I think
Go on, go for it.
Okay. I have a few
Yeah.
recommendations. Yeah, okay. I have a few recommendations. I think the international community must prioritize establishing and maintaining humanitarian corridors to ensure aid reaches areas most affected by the conflict and famine in Sudan. Advocacy for those corridors, as you know, is crucial. Additionally, supporting grassroots organizations, local NGOs on the ground can amplify the impact, ensuring resources are used effectively to meet the immediate needs of women and girls. I think organizations like The Circle and their supporters should focus on funding and supporting women-only shelters and response mechanisms for survivors of conflict-related sexual violence. These shelters, I think, must offer comprehensive services, including medical care, psychological support, legal assistance, and the international support can also help establish safe spaces where women and girls seek refuge and recovery. This is having tea, talking, basically establishing the ground basis for a feminist memory in Sudan and a collective memory where these stories are remembered. I also think access to feminine hygiene products is another critical area where international organizations can make a difference. Period poverty is a serious issue affecting the health and safety of women in Sudan and in the neighboring countries. Donations and funding can provide these essential products and support, educational programs on menstrual health. This support will maintain the dignity and promote health among women and girls. Last but not least, I think advocacy and organizing for Sudan is crucial. The international community organizations like the Circle can use their platforms to highlight the plight of the Sudanese women and girls, putting pressure on governments and international bodies to take action. Increased visibility, as you know, can be more significant support and more effective, can push for also more effective policy changes, prioritizing the needs of women and girls in Sudan. I think all of these efforts combined, humanitarian aid, shelter, support for CRSV survivors, access to hygiene products and advocacy, the international community and organizations like the Circle can provide substantial and meaningful assistance to the Sudanese women and girls in this challenging time. And I thank everyone for joining us today and for listening to us.
Thank you so much.
Gemma, I'm going to jump in here too, because we are rapidly running out of time, but I've largely stayed quiet to make sure that the platform has gone to the most important people in this virtual room, these amazing, incredible activists and frontline workers in Mahaseen, Reem and Grace. You are so, so powerful. I'm so pleased that not only can the Circle hold spaces like this to continue to shine a spotlight across the world, but and particularly for horrific conflicts and crises that are happening. But the fact that very, very core to the essence of the Circle is supporting and funding grassroots women-led organisations. That is where the power and the convening, as you've talked about, is so vital. But that we can also use what you said, Mahaseen, we've already been using our power in terms of advocacy and putting pressure on governments. And only a few weeks ago, we did a high-profile open letter to the UK government and others asking for more funding and a ceasefire. So we will continue to do that. And please share along your journeys about what else everyone here can do. Straight after this call, the Circle is going to be sending out a note to everyone who signed up to this event with actions that you can take, from funding to signing petitions to sharing social media. So you will not, at Circle events, you will not leave thinking how you can support. We will provide you with those tools, which is so, so important. So please do think about what you can donate or sign and support. Gemma, for people who arrived late, you have done such a wonderful job in stepping into the shoes of Christina Lamb, who couldn't be with us last minute. We are so incredibly, incredibly grateful, and it's always an honour to bring people together, women together from around the world. I know we've had people from the DRC commenting, from Los Angeles, from Germany, from London. So truly, that is the space of action. I think we're going to have to wrap up there, but Gemma, over to you for final words.
I just want to thank everyone. I feel very moved, so I'm not going to talk because I'll cry. But the one thing I am going to do is direct advice. So thank you, Mahaseen. I'm going to go onto Instagram right now, and I'm going to do a call out to period products right in this moment, because it's something it's just in my head, and we're gonna get definitely some actual physical donations sent in your direction on the specific of period poverty, because that's something I know I can do right now. And I'll keep on thinking, I'll keep my eyes on the circle. Always a thank you to the team behind the circle, Annie, who very much is a very special part of activating my voice as an activist from a very young age. To meet all of you has been an honor. Everybody here, let's keep guaning. I really believe in an immortal sisterhood. That's what the book that you mentioned that I'm writing is coming out, called next year, and I'll get it to everybody. I'd love it to get to Sudan, but the sentiment of an immortal sisterhood I truly believe in, and I really believe in that hope, that grace that conjured up so beautifully, and when there are moments like this, for us to be safe, to be held, and to talk. So yeah, thank you. Have a great evening, everybody. Happy solstice. Enjoy nature. Nature's powerful.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, the circle. Thank you, Gemma, Grace, and Reem. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And keep eyes on Sudan.
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity, and thank you for joining. I hope you've had some stories here, and not just stories, but a message to take across.
Yeah.
And